Front double biceps. Every bodybuilder who has ever trained for more than a week knows this pose, and almost none of them know where it came from. Arms up, fists balled, elbows slightly forward, lats flared as wide as possible, stomach pulled in, legs flexed. It shows your bicep peak, lat width, V-taper, quads, and calves all at once. No other mandatory pose asks that much from a single position. Sergio Oliva's version became the template. His arms appeared larger than his head when he hit it, which is partly an optical illusion created by his proportions, a tiny waist under an enormous upper body. His sequence of raising both arms overhead in a V before dropping into the double bicep became so recognizable it's cataloged separately as the victory pose. That nickname, the myth, was earned right here. Arnold Schwarzenegger's waist wasn't as narrow as Oliva's, so he added a slight twist to create the illusion from the front. In 1969, both men hit this pose against each other at the Mr. Olympia, and a ringside account in Mr. America magazine describes the crowd producing noise that would drown a jet engine. Oliva won on judge votes 4-3. It was the only Mr. Olympia Arnold ever lost. Arnold's stated principle was, if you don't have it, don't hit it, which is advice from someone who had almost all of it. Front lat spread. Hands on the waist, elbows pulled forward and inward, lats forced as wide as they'll go, all while facing the audience. The goal is to show your widest V-taper without turning around. This is the pose where clavicle width and lat insertion points do most of the work. Training can build lat mass but cannot change where the muscle attaches to the bone. There is nowhere to hide that difference, and judges know exactly what they're looking at. The front lat spread gets less post-competition analysis than the back version despite being equally demanding to execute well. The sport just tends to pay more attention to the poses it can't see. Side chest. The competitor stands sideways in a staggered stance, chest rotated toward the judges, far side pec flexed, thighs pressed together to show the hamstring sweep. Posture stays upright because leaning forward collapses the chest and makes the whole thing pointless. This is where chest genetics get publicly sorted. Athletes with full pec insertions running low toward the sternum look complete. Athletes with high pec insertions, which is a genetic trait you cannot train around, look like they have work to do even when they don't. The side chest reveals it every time, under a spotlight, sideways, in front of everyone. Side triceps. The companion pose to the side chest. Same sideways stance, but the dominant arm locks out and extends downward while the rear hand grips the wrist from behind the back, forcing the tricep into full extension. Because the arm shifts forward here, the midsection is more exposed than in the side chest. Tight abs and developed obliques matter more, and a competitor carrying extra thickness through the waist gets caught standing sideways under a spotlight with nowhere to flex their way out of it. That's a quick way to lose ground in the placings. Back double biceps. Turn around, raise the arms the same way as the front version, and now flex everything you cannot see. That's the challenge. Upper and lower back, 3 deltoid heads, triceps, biceps, lats, glutes, hamstrings, and calves, all contracted simultaneously, none of them visible to you. It requires more mirror practice and video review than any other mandatory pose. Jay Cutler said shows are won from the back, and judges have operated on that principle for decades. Ronnie Coleman's back double biceps across his 8 consecutive Olympia titles from 1998 to 2005 is still cited as the reference point for the pose, executed at a level nobody else has matched. The Christmas tree, striated erector spinae above the glutes, became a conditioning benchmark specifically associated with this pose. Back lat spread. Same rear-facing stance, but the hands press into the sides of the waist while the lats flare outward and down. Where the back double biceps shows thickness and detail, the back lat spread shows width and structure. They're always evaluated together because they're measuring different things. The widest appearing spreads in competition history are often a function of clavicle width rather than lat size alone. Abdominals and thigh. Hands behind the head, one leg stepped forward and flexed, upper body crunching down as hard as possible. Abdominal development, obliques, serratus anterior, and quad definition all visible at once. It sits second to last in the mandatory sequence, placed directly before the most muscular. Controlled abdominal flexion, then the most explosive contraction in the sport. The sequence builds one pose into the next, and the contrast is the point. Most muscular. Originally, there were 7 mandatory poses. The most muscular was added as number 8 and put at the end. Harold Poole is credited with developing it. He won the most muscular award at the 1962 and 1963 AAU Mr. America, took the IFBB Mr. Universe title in 1963 at 19 years old, and was the first non-white bodybuilder to win a title at either competition. He finished runner-up at the 1965, 1966, and 1967 Mr. Olympia. He built the pose before the sport built the rules around it. 3 variations exist. The crab is the most aggressive, both arms hugging forward and the head dropping toward the audience. It demands genuine upper body mass to execute well. The hands-on-hips version is controlled and upright, which is what Frank Zane used because he didn't have the mass to make the crab work in his favor. The hands-clasped version falls somewhere between them. Lou Ferrigno brought the crab version into mainstream culture through The Incredible Hulk from 1977 to 1982. The pose reached millions of living rooms with no bodybuilding context attached. The connection back to the Olympia stage is now almost completely invisible to anyone who didn't already know it. Stomach vacuum. Exhale fully, pull the navel toward the spine, and contract the transverse abdominis inward. It requires well-developed serratus muscles. Without them, the vacuum produces a hollow instead of a sculpted appearance. Frank Zane, three-time Mr. Olympia from 1977 to 1979, always closed his routine with the vacuum. He said it was his best pose and always brought the house down. In 2003, Zane described the mass monster era plainly. Bodybuilders today have such big muscular waistlines that they can only let them hang out. There's just too much to suck in. The pose didn't gradually fade in the 1990s. It was physically eliminated. As competitors substantially increased body weight through insulin and growth hormone, visceral organ growth expanded the waist to the point where producing a vacuum was no longer achievable. It didn't retire. The physique that could do it did. The classic physique division, which debuted at the Olympia in 2016, was partly designed to bring it back. Whether that holds depends on who can actually still hit it. The quarter turns. Before mandatory poses, all competitors rotate through 4 positions on command: front relaxed, right side, back, left side. This is round 1, the symmetry round. The word relaxed is a misnomer. Competitors are expected to flex everything while appearing at ease. The quarter turns expose proportion imbalances that mandatory poses can partially hide. The relaxed front and rear positions are also where abdominal distension, the bubble gut, is most visible, and the IFBB explicitly scores it down. Fans focus on mandatory poses and posedowns. Judges do most of their ranking during the quarter turns. Almost nobody discusses this after the contest. The model walk. The bikini division debuted at the Olympia in 2010 and brought the model walk with it. Competitors walk the stage runway before quarter turns, and judges evaluate balance, poise, skin tone, and overall presentation. Before 2010, no Olympia division used a runway walk as part of formal judging. The bikini division was a deliberate decision to expand what the competition could be, and the model walk is the clearest evidence of that intent. Men's Open has never had one. The fitness routine. The Fitness Olympia debuted in 1995, making it the second women's division at the Olympia after Miss Olympia. Mia Finnegan won the first title. The format starts with quarter turns in a 2-piece and heels for the judging round, then a 2-minute fitness routine in costume during the finals. Required elements include push-ups, high kicks, straddle holds, and side splits. Competitors come from bodybuilding, gymnastics, cheerleading, and dance backgrounds. The fitness routine is the only element at the entire Olympia weekend that is explicitly a performance rather than a physique display. Every other item on this list asks you to stand still and look a specific way. The fitness routine asks you to actually do something. The Posedown. The top competitors in Men's Open, typically 5 or 6 of them, come on stage simultaneously and pose at will while judges make their final scoring decisions. It runs approximately 60 seconds. It is the one moment of the Olympia that functions like an athletic confrontation rather than a scored technical exercise. In 1980 in Sydney, Arnold Schwarzenegger entered the contest one day before the event. He had traveled to Australia as CBS's on-site commentator. He then entered as a competitor. During the Posedown, Arnold repeatedly ignored judge calls to change poses and stepped forward from the formation. 3 of the 7 judges had documented personal relationships with him. When the results were announced, the audience booed, which by all accounts had never happened to Arnold at a bodybuilding event before. Chris Dickerson jumped off the stage saying, "I can't believe it." Frank Zane reportedly threw his trophy backstage. Mike Mentzer exclaimed "bullshit" on receiving his award. Boyer Coe said Arnold had legs that looked like they belonged in a chicken nest. CBS had filmed the entire contest. When the crew returned to the United States, they refused to produce the recordings. The network never aired it. The Mr. Olympia has never been filmed by an American broadcast network since. Free posing routine. Every Men's Open competitor gets 60 seconds of individual posing to music of their own choosing. Classic Physique gets 60 seconds as well. The sequence, the transitions, any signature moments, all of it is the competitor's decision. Before 1978, promoters controlled the music at bodybuilding competitions. Wayne D'Amelia changed that at his Night of Champions by letting athletes choose their own. What had been a generic display became a personal artistic statement. Arnold and Franco Columbu hired a ballet teacher to refine their posing movements. Ed Corney represented a different approach entirely, an and Arnold said of him in Pumping Iron, "That is what I call posing." When Corny died in 2019, Schwarzenegger named the Best Poser award at the Arnold Classic after him. Phil Heath won 7 consecutive Olympia titles from 2011 to 2017 while being consistently criticized for stiff, technically uninteresting routines. He won anyway because the free posing round carries less formal weight than mandatory comparisons. The best posers don't necessarily win. The best physiques don't necessarily pose well. Multiple bodybuilding writers use the phrase lost art for what happened to posing quality in the 1990s and 2000s, when physique size became the priority and routines became mechanical. The classic physique division has partially reversed that. Whether it lasts depends on which standard judges decide to keep rewarding. The tension between size and aesthetics entered the Olympia stage in 1969, when Arnold's mass-first approach directly challenged Sergio Oliva's classical proportions. That argument has been running since 1969. It has not been settled.